Alright, welcome everybody. So, in this video, we're going to talk about the mental health crisis that is surrounding Gen Z. You're going to see a lot of graphs like this that you see on the screen. And so, we're going to really focus on this problem that is just coming up, I suppose, and not a lot of people know about this. And so, as the mental health researcher in the room, I thought I would just raise this alarm, not in a way that we should panic, but in a way that we should be mindful of what's happening, and perhaps even think about what we could do to meet this challenge. But welcome everyone to this live stream. It's gonna be a bit of a different format. So it's not going to be just this video, very edited, polished, but it's more going to be me talking to you and communicating in a more direct way, in a more detailed way, hopefully. So I get to put on my researcher hat a bit more, where I don't have to worry about the fast edits and just getting the point across. Poop, 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 poop. But I want to go more into detail. So it's going to be a bit it will need more attention span on your part. But hopefully, I can do things like this. Check this out. Check this out, you guys. Apple comes up with new things. Look at this. Hello, welcome. Yeah, never ceases to amaze me. All right, so we're gonna talk about the Gen Z problems, and to be clear, I'm not looking down on this generation because it is my generation. There's some disagreements over where we put Gen Z as, what is the cutoff for what counts as Gen Z, and some cutoffs are 1995, some cutoffs are 1996, and some cutoffs are 1998. So you can take whatever you want. I'm 96, so if you were to include me in that generation, I would be 90s. You would have to use the first two definitions, and that's the definition that's used in a lot of research that I'm going to present today. So although I've started this video a bit pumped up, what I'm going to share with you today is going to be fairly alarming and something that we all need to start paying attention to a little bit more. So we're going to talk about mental health statistics, especially as it pertains to Gen Z boys and girls, in this video. So get prepped for a lot of slides and a lot of graphs coming your way, although I'll do my best to explain everything to you. So here we go. So the first thing you see on your screen is the percentage of teenagers in the US who have experienced major depression in the last year. And this comes from the US National Survey. There's a lot of sources I'm going to pull out these graphs from, but they are very neatly summarized in Jonathan Haidt's and I think Jean Twenge's work. I'm going to link some of that in the description or comments down below so that you have some sources. I'm also going to use some Pew Data Center. So I'm not going to get too much into the sources while in this stream, but we can talk a bit more about it in the comments down below. All right, so this is US teenagers who have experienced major depression in the last year. And you can see that girls are predictably, I don't think you can see my pointer, sadly. Let me see if I can add a cursor on the fly. Okay, so this is how the live stream goes. It's gonna be a bit of a live experiment, let's just say. Okay, if I don't find it, then I'm just gonna continue. Let's say that cursor. There you go. Okay, bingo. So you can see a cursor, but I don't have no clue how to move this thing. Okay, we're just gonna ignore it for now. Okay. Maybe if I go to Keynote, I can point at it. Let's see. Sorry for the delay, everyone. We're figuring this thing out as we go ahead. Can you see anything? Okay, I will just have to spell things out. I think I can just add it, manually move the cursor, which I found in the previous one. Okay, give me 1 second, everyone. We are playing this live, doing this live. Cursor, boom. Okay, so I'm gonna have to manually move this thing, but hopefully you'll get this idea. So you see that it starts out like this, with girls are predictably more experience predictably more depression overall right from 2004, but you can see that it sort of goes, for boys is always lower, but something happens at this 2012 mark where you see like a rapid increase in the increase in girls reported self-reported major depression, and there is some increase in the boys measure as well, although the gap has now increased even more. So as you can see, there's clearly something happening around this 2012 mark, and we're going to discuss what that something might be. But this is the first thing I wanted to throw at you, which is there is a difference between guys and girls' depression reporting at the very least, and at the very least in the US, although I'm going to show you statistics from other countries as well in a bit. Let's move on to the next one. So this is the percentage of teens experiencing depression, or one major depressive episode rather, in the last 12 months. And then you can clearly see here too, teenage girls have this massive rise around the 2012 mark, and so do teenage boys, but obviously the gap is much more. And so this is experiencing one bout of major depression in the last 12 months. And there's a clear trend of increasing mental health problems. So this is some more things. This is like, I think, a different measure where they measure a depression score instead of self-report. So this is, I think, questionnaire based, and you can see again a very similar pattern around to 2012 and onward. Things start to escalate. Yeah. So same graphs so far. And now a lot of people would think that and be like, hey, look, you know what? Gen Z is just more aware. They know how to... I'm going to try and switch things up a little. So, people will be like, Gen Z is just more aware. They just know more about mental health problems, and therefore they are more likely to go ahead and report it. They are more likely to go and seek help, and they're less likely to have shame around it. Which, if true, is a great thing, and something that I have been absolutely keen on in... try and increase the volume a little bit. Hello? Okay. So something that I have been very keen on presenting, and it's one of my gigs in life, to bring these sorts of statistics to you, to bring information on mental health to you. So it's a great thing if that is happening. But look, there's some counter evidence to that. And look at this graph. So this graph is not looking at self-reported depression scores or self-reported depression visits to the hospital or to the doctor rather. This is showing actual suicide plans and attempts. I think it's for Gen Z. I don't have the exact what slice of the population this is about, but this is Gen Z, and you can clearly see that suicide plan is rising, and this is percentage of, I'm guessing, hospital visits, psychiatrist hospital visits. But again, I'm going to give some sources if you want to dig deeper later on. I should have had it, to be honest, but anyway, and even the suicide attempts themselves are slightly higher, and that also, this is 1% of the, let's just call it, the hospital visits. Yeah. So again, this is not just about self-reports here, and it's not just about more awareness. Again, this very similar graph, and this at least gives you more detail. Thankfully, my screenshotting skills have gotten better, and clearly you can see this is self-harm. And clearly, again, in this 2012 period, you can see this rise happening within girls, and there's a somewhat of a rise with boys as well, but it's not as sharp as you can see with girls. um, and yeah, it's hard to justify this as just people being more aware, or girls or boys just being more aware of mental health problems. This is more than that, because these are actual injuries that have been reported more. And again, we're going to talk more about what's happening in this mysterious 2012 zone in a bit, but just wanted to point these few statistics out in public interest. The next thing I have is, okay, now some of you will be like, okay, this is about, we're just talking about the US. Is there any evidence that this is happening across the board? Is this just Trump or something like that, or some political happening in the US which has nothing to do with the rest of the world? And that's not the case. So this is, for example, Canadian women, and this is the percentage that report to be in excellent or very good mental health. And you can see it's significantly lower for Gen Z, perhaps early millennials, and it's significantly higher, which in this case is a good thing, because this is reporting excellent mental health, and percentage of population is almost teetering towards 50%, which is to say half of the population do not identify with having good mental health or excellent mental health, which is obviously another huge problem. And this data comes from Canada. Let's look at the next graph I have. So this is New Zealand. So again, if you are like, it's everything is happening on that side of the world, the rest of the world doesn't have to worry about it too much. And look, this is another country which is completely on the opposite side. It's still in the Anglosphere, so to speak, but it's completely on the opposite side. And you can see, same pattern around 2012 or something, you see this rise happening. And this is anxiety diagnosis, by the way. A quick note on mental health conditions is they are diagnosed behaviorally. So when you go to a doctor, they would look at your symptoms and make a diagnosis on that basis. But this is not to say that anxiety and depression are completely two different phenomenon. I think that question yet remains to be answered. In my own personal research, personal PhD research, I found that anxiety and depression are absolutely tightly linked and correlated, and they do not come across as two different factors, so to speak, which might be an indication that they are not two different, at least not completely different illnesses, so to speak. But of course, they can have a different phenotype. They could have a different way in which it manifests to the doctor or to the person themselves. Right. So with anxiety diagnosis, you can see that's a rise there for women, for girls, I suppose, and the same exists for boys, but not as much is probably true. All right. Let's move on to the next slide. And so now the question is really, why is this happening, right? Why what's happening around this 2012 mark, that something is just escalating. And people like Jonathan Haidt, Greg Lukianoff, who wrote The Coddling of the American Mind, and some others have pointed at the role of social media, especially for girls. This is what they are often exposed to. If you're like a teenage girl growing up, a Gen Z girl, this is the ideal, this is the feed that you're growing up with. And the reason why 2012 seems to be this interesting landmark is this is where Instagram started adding like features. They started adding repost. Twitter started adding reposts. So this is around the time in which the virality of social media was developed. This is around the time in which the sense of comparative social media developed. There was social media, I think 2008 or roughly around that period onward, but it never escalated into too big of mental health challenges, possibly because it was just a feed. It was like my home page right now. You could go there, you could check out what I'm up to, but you're not having this sense of how many people liked my photo, or how many people like this other person's photo, or am I missing out on some parties, and am I missing out on looking like these models right here. This is obviously Margot Robbie and Kim Kardashian, two of the most popular Instagram celebrities out there, and celebrities in general, I suppose. And so if you're a young girl growing up, chances are that looking at this is more influential to you than young boys. And so that's a possibility. But having said that, it is not to say that young girls are the only ones who are suffering. So this is adolescence pessimism, and this is, I guess, self-reported. It should be self-reported, and you see that clearly boys have a slightly slightly more pessimistic outlook, and while that has been the case for a while, it's significantly increased again around that 2012 mark, and the same is true for girls. So while it seems like the mental health crisis is affecting women disproportionately or girls disproportionately, that is not to say that the boys have been untouched. And they have been, if you look at, depending on the metric you look like, you may even find that boys have been more affected. For example, in the pessimism outlook towards life, as an example. One area that keeps on coming up again and again, especially for guys, is dating. And so this is some dating survey from Pew Research Center, and they found that in online dating, women tend to be more overwhelmed by the number of messages they received, whereas guys tend to be more insecure about the lack of messages they are receiving. So we have this disparity going on, especially in the dating area, where guys might feel like they are not making it, that they are incapable of dating. And this, to me, sounds like the biggest area that guys are struggling with. And the data seems to be backing it up as well. Right, and this just last graph before we have a little bit of a chat, and then we are done. And so this graph talks about the percentage of people that are single, and you can see the two points that stick out like a sore throat is that stick out are men ages 18 to 29 are significantly more likely to be single, and ages 18 to 29 as well, than they are in general. But if you look at women in the same age category, the difference is not that huge in the Gen Z or early millennial period in this particular example. And again, this is by Pew Research Center, which also means it's from the US. All right, we're going to have a little bit of a chat about what this phenomenon might mean, and what can we do about it. So the first problem seems to be Gen Z's mental health crisis in general, and it seems to affect girls disproportionately, especially when it comes to anxiety and depression. And while the causes for it are still unclear, a strong hypothesis is the rise of social media. And then there are some other hypotheses like the lack of free play. And if you're interested in a deeper dive in this, I'm taking these from Jonathan Haidt's and Greg Lukianoff's book, The Coddling of the American Mind. But these statistics come from other research, right? So just the hypothesis that social media might be the key factor here comes from that book. And so that's one potential problem. And then the second problem is the problem with men, young men in particular, and with respect to dating. Now, I don't mean to exclude some other factors, like, for example, race and ethnicity seems to matter. It also seems to matter whether you identify with any of the LGBTQ spectrum, that matters. And so there's obviously other factors that can be explanative of a lot of these trends, but I don't think they explain the trends fully. And that's why this hard split around boys and girls seems to be holding quite true with these statistics, at least. Regardless of what you think of the causes, we do have problems going on for Gen Z and mental health. And so the solutions that have been proposed around this have been along the lines of taking social media and increasing the minimum age in which kids can access, teenagers can access social media. That's been one solution that has been proposed. And then there's this more idea of there should be more free play when people are younger. And again, Haidt and Lukianov talk more about it in their book. So again, the intention with this video was not to raise panic, but to raise some amount of alarm and to understand reality as it is. Now, I personally don't know what the exact problem is, or what's causing it, or what's not causing it, but I do know that there is a problem. And as a society, as a collective, as people who are interested in maintaining healthy and happier emotional lives, we need to worry about this generation. And we need to worry about my generation. And as much as I would like intervention from the outside, I think we need to think about it ourselves. And you'll see that while social media does seem to affect this generation disproportionately, its effects on the other generations are not particularly absent either. And I think we all have to worry about the rise of these addictive technologies to one extent or the other. So anyway, I hope you found this bit of a live stream helpful with some data. Let me know what you think. Let me know why you think there's this problem with Gen Z, what's happening, and what might be the solutions around this. Have you noticed this in yourself, perhaps, if you're Gen Z, or if you have kids, or if you have friends? Then why do you think this mental health problems exist? And hopefully this raises some awareness around mental health and the importance of having good mental health in general. All right, I hope you found this live stream useful. And any of my podcasts and the rest of the channel is dedicated to exploring our mental health and making it better. So irrespective of what the statistics say, we all could do with improving our mental health in one aspect or the other. So I invite you to scroll through the podcast or scroll through the YouTube channel and see if there's any video or any topic that resonates with you, and see if there's anything that catches your eye that you might want to dig deeper and investigate further. All right, thank you very much for joining. I'm gonna end this live stream now. Let me see. I wonder if I can check the chat very quickly. I mean, I didn't advertise it or anything, so I don't expect anyone to be there in the chat, but you never know. Okay, I'm too new to OBS to quickly pull up things, so I'm just going to end the stream right now. All right, see ya.